Hey everybody, happy 2026. January, the beginning of a year. Also, the beginning of season 2 for this podcast. You're listening to The Visual Historian, a photographer's journey. My name is George Kushler. I am the owner of GK Photography here in New Orleans for the last 31 years. And I was thinking a lot about this podcast, actually, being that it's the first one of the year, season number 2, episode 1. I figured, you know what? Let me reintroduce myself here. Let me let you in on some insight of who you're listening to. You know, who is this guy? If you don't know me, if you don't live in the area, I'm brand new to your ears. Well, let me just explain who I am. First of all, I've been a photographer since I was 23. Yeah. And before that, and still up until now, I am a musician all through high school. I'm a drummer. I was on quads. I was on drum set. I really honestly thought God's only talent that he gave me way back when in the beginning was music. And I honestly thought that was what I was going to be doing my entire life. I like being the teacher. I don't like being the student. I stink at school. Way back when the pill for ADD did not really exist in the terms of how we're, able to use things now. So I struggled in school. I had a hard time. When they talk about squirrel moments, I'm the guy that had those squirrel moments. I'm what they based that phrase on. Imagine this. You're in grade school. It's a beautiful sunny day. And we had the windows in school to where you'd roll crank and the windows would roll out. I think they were called jalousie windows. And it was just because it was a beautiful day. It was cool outside. Let's let some fresh air in. And as she's opening up these windows, I'm thinking to myself, oh no, she doesn't know what she just did. I am going to have a hard time. So even though it was beautiful sunny day, slightly cool air coming inside, but I noticed every damn squirrel on the tree outside, every chirp from 6 blocks away from a bird, I heard it. I was that easily distracted. So anyway, school was not always fun for me. However, I firmly believe that your entire journey from baby to child to teenager to adult to maybe where you are now, okay? Good, bad, ugly. This is why everybody's journey is very different. No two people have the exact duplicate life. Like, it's basically impossible. I have 3 kids, all raised the same way, under the same roof, and they're all a little different, some more than others. But my journey as a photographer happened when I was in college and I was in between majors. I just did not like school. And the camera happened. It was a total accident. It was a God-blessed accident. My friend Steve had a old manual camera. I think it was his dad's camera, old Minolta, at his apartment. And, us guys, we like things. We like toys. We like gadgets. It's just, I don't know, it's fun. And this is, obviously going back to where it was only film. Digital did not happen. We did not cut the cord from film to digital until 2002. So right now I'm talking about 1993, 92, 91. Like, that's where I'm talking about right this second. So anyway, the camera thing happened. I followed that path. I wound up getting a job at Eckerd's 1 Hour Photo Lab. My dad was supportive. I was in between the majors, and he's like, look, man, why don't you take a summer off, get a job, take a break from school, and just see where it goes from there. So I did. So I'm driving around my little city, and I'm sitting there going, where am I going to get a job? Where do I want to get a job? And I've had several jobs before then. Just, as a college dude thinking about career, I thought, okay, well, I'll go get a job at the 1 Hour Photo Lab over here, and at least it'll be in the photography world. Maybe I'll meet some people. Maybe I'll learn some new things. let's go. So who knew that little move would be so important to me? You know? So yes, all the things happened. I did meet photographers that I still work with today, believe it or not. Management training was incredible. Things about imagery, how to read a negative, how to develop. All of those things were fantastic. So this is what I want to talk to you about today. This is what happened as for me as a person. Okay. First of all of you listeners out there who are not in my age range, you're younger. Okay. If you're not in your 50s, your way of growing up is very different than my way of growing up. So first of all, let's go backwards and take away the cell phones, take away the internet, just take away all those things. So you guys have been watching Stranger Things, and I love Stranger Things. That world that we lived in back then was real, but it was our world, and it wasn't really that big of a deal because it's what we were living. We had no comparison. The only comparison we really had was according to our parents, and we had technology. It was starting. It was happening. We had computer games. We had Atari. We had things that our parents did not. So it was neat. It was our little world. Fast forward to me being in my 20s, and now I'm starting to take pictures for one of the photographers that I met at the 1 Hour Photo Lab. And it was a life-changing experience for me because what you can't fathom right now is no internet, no cell phones. iPhones were not a thing. You didn't have the power of the internet in your hands yet. What you got to understand is, how did information get from city to city? Again, no internet, dude. No TikTok, no X, no Twitter, none of that stuff, y'all. So you got your information from the TV, from the news, So now looking back on, how things are being run right now on the news and stuff like that, and how they're kind of forcing some agendas every once in a while, pushing the narrative. Back then, we didn't know all that. We assumed the news was real and true, and, every story meant something and blah, blah, blah. But what photography did to me after working with my friend Wally, he would send me on jobs, and he was paying me a per hour fee. I think it was $20 an hour. And, back then when you were making, $5 an hour, $20 an hour was a big deal. So it was so awesome. I mean, I'll never forget the first phone call. Wally called me and, had a easy small gig for me to do. And I was going to some event. I think it was the Olympic Games for the police. They had this friendly competition day where all the cops go out, they do golf, or, some do basketball or whatever it is. My job was to go photograph the golf teams, the foursomes, and I was scared to death, honestly, because it was my first job like this one. I knew it was daytime. I knew I had sun. I didn't understand Flash that much. And of course it was film. So anyway, I'll never forget being at my parents' house. I'm in the front room. Wally calls and I ask him how much, is the job. He's going to buy the film, give it to me to go shoot it. When I'm done, bring it back to him. My job is done. He tells me $20 an hour. I'm like, thank you so much, Wally. I'll see you on Tuesday. I hang up the phone and I yell at my mom, hey, Ma, you're not going to believe this. I'm getting paid $20 an hour to go take pictures. So it started like that. That was the first bug. That was the first itch. Okay. Then over time, doing events for Wally and some other people, I was always being forced to be in scenarios that I was not used to being around. Here I am, this young 20-something-year-old kid, and I was not around business people. I wasn't around police like that. I wasn't around an Indian wedding. I didn't know anything about their culture. I was doing a bar mitzvah or something for the Jewish culture, and I'm learning as I go. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I was going home telling my parents stories that they have never experienced because their generation got a job, made a family, you go to work, you go home, repeat the process until you get a family vacation, maybe spend time with your friends. But I mean, even today, maybe this is happening. I'm sure it is. I mean, my own kids don't have the experiences like I still am having in the world of photography. And let me tell you something. When you are around that kind of humanity and cultures and, you're respecting the process that you're the guy with the camera. So you're important in the room to get the shot. Everybody knows it. There's a level of respect to where people will like help you or get out of your way to get the shot because they know it's important. And this level of love that I was always experiencing was going against what I was hearing on the news. And then over time, even today, it's obvious. It's like what's happening in the narrative of the news is not everybody's voice. It's just a story that they're telling. It's an angle of that story that they're telling. And I have been trained to see. As a photographer, I'm in the room, but it's like taking 5 steps backwards and you're watching everything that's happening. And you want to get the shot, so you're very aware of what's happening in the room. Fast forward to me now as a photographer, I am on insane blasted mode of moment capturing. I am so hyper aware now because of my 31 years of doing all this stuff for other people. I don't care who you are, what color you are, what religion you have, where you're from. None of that matters, man. It does not matter. And I have seen so many differences, yet so many similarities. And that has been a huge part of my journey. It's a big reason why I still love professional photography. I love the responsibility. I love the pressure of getting the shot. I like getting the shot. I like proving to myself I can still, dominate a room. But I have gone so many steps further than when I was in my 20s. Now, me being 54, still a young guy for 31 years behind me, which is incredible. But now I can talk to the CEO of the company because we're not that far apart in age. I can relate to the bride and the groom because I did that. I'm around it all the time. I can relate to their younger daughters because I have daughters that were in high school around the same time frame. This relatability as a human is something that you'll slowly acquire if you're doing events like I was doing. If you're a photographer and you're only doing family portraits in the park or someplace and you're not doing events on the level like I was doing, then you're only hanging with the people in your area, basically, But man, let me just tell you, I see people for who they are, not what they are. And that statement right there is who I am. So when you're listening to my podcast, I need you to understand something, okay? When I was in college, Bill Clinton was running for president. And when you're in college, you like to rebel against your adults. You like to rebel against the system. It seems like every generation does this. There is no one time where there was harmony in all age ranges. People like being different. They like being unique. They like their little groups. It's just human nature, That's why it works. Me personally, I don't like it. I was, go back to when I was a kid with the squirrel moments. I was the one trying really hard to hold a D or a C average. Okay. I was the skinny little nothing of a kid that was not good in sports, still really aren't. I like playing. I'm just not great at it. It's like everybody's story, like I said in the beginning, from you as a child to who you are as an adult, your entire beginning portion of your life molded you into who you are. And first of all, I want you to just respect who you are, love who you are. If you don't love who you are right now, everything in the past is the past. Move forward, find a way to change, make new friends, change your job. I don't know. All I'm saying is we are in way more control of our life than we give ourselves credit for. I loved coming home and telling my parents all these stories. I still have stories for them. My dad, he grew up in the generation where segregation was coming out of that era. My mom remembers getting on the bus and there was a section, I guess, where the black kids can sit and the white kids were this and that. She remembers segregated bathrooms. It's like I grew up not having that. So here I am, that college kid with a lot of opinions. And, when Bill Clinton was running, a lot of us were kind of talking in college and all that good stuff, talking about we're not our parents. Let's get some change going. Everybody loves change. So, that being said, as a photographer, being around so many different people, I've learned to love humanity as a whole and respect people for who they are, their religion, their background, their culture. I love that. And, if you have not been in a room that you're not used to being in, you kind of can't share this version of my story. You can't watch TV or TikTok and think you know Spanish people if you're a white girl from Detroit. You know what I'm saying? I think we as humans need to do more things together or change the school system on how we're learning history. I think our history is so much more wider and so many more things have happened now, like in my time on earth. And my wife's a teacher and we have this conversation often. I'm like, are they still teaching the exact same thing I learned when I was a kid? And they are. And I think that's kind of sad because you're keeping the narrative like they were keeping the narrative way back in the day. That's what's happening by sticking to one format. You force a generation to do what you did, and that's not what we want to do. People have evolved. Many people, we celebrate the Statue of Liberty for representing the immigrants coming over here and welcome to the United States. And what's going on TV right now with ICE and the Hispanic community or whatever, the immigrants that they're going after. I personally have some huge, huge problems with what's going on. So before I go into this statement, let me just rephrase. Let me just summarize where I am right now as a business person. Okay. I have learned to see everything as a business, everything from the grocery store to your church to, everything is a business. Any restaurant you go to Walmart, it doesn't matter. Everything is a business. I was just telling my son yesterday at dinner, I said, man, as of right now, air is the only thing that's free. I said, everything else you're paying for, everything. So I grew in the customer service field. I have been taught, I've been around it. I worked at Sears. If you don't know who Sears is, what Sears is, do your research. I'm not getting into it. But I've been around customer service for a very long time, since I was like 17 years old. And I am extremely proud of my customer service in my business with GK Photography. How I do my white glove service for my clients. I don't see anybody else doing it. Even other photographers I know locally don't do everything that I do. But I respect that. I love where I am. So those 1% of, people in the community that come to me, I love my 1%. I respect my 1%. I'll do anything, that I need to for my 1%. But when I tell you everything is a business, I'm it's easy to get judgy if you don't know either side that you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a Fuji camera. I go online. People that have these negative opinions about Fuji normally don't own a Fuji camera. So how can you have an opinion, dude? You're not even using it. All right. So let's move on to what's happening with ICE in the country. I'm confused. I see everything as a business. I think this whole thing is being done wrong. I think our leaders have some great ideas, and then they're doing things incorrectly. This is just my friendly opinion, but first of all, I need you to understand, I'm here in New Orleans back when Hurricane Katrina did what it did and it devastated us. Do you know who helped rebuild this city? All of the people they're going after right now. These wonderful, hardworking people who enjoy working. They love the freedom here. And I mean, when I tell you that's who rebuilt this city, it is. And to this day, when we have, a crew come to the house for construction or whatever it is, they always have these amazing people that can't always speak English to you, but they smile, they're hardworking. They bring their own ice chest of water and food. I'm constantly offering things, and they're like, no, I have. So me as a business, let's look at the country right now as a business. Wouldn't it make more sense if the government, meaning DT and the crew, said, hey, everybody who is here illegally and you're not paying your taxes, we want you here. This is how we grew our country, but we need to do this in a legal way. We want you to be family. We need you to be family. We need you to pay taxes and be legitimate so our economy can support the way we are running everything. Okay. So here's a time frame. Let's say you have 3 months, 2 months, whatever it is, to get your act in order. Here's the website to get your information. Here's how to become legal. Here's where to go. This is what's going to cost you or not cost you. My point is, give these people time to register. I mean, I understand that everybody goes, yeah, but people have been here for like 30 years and, they've been illegal. Well, look at the business side of it. How prepared is our government on helping people become legal? The system is broke. Broke, or we don't even have a system. You see what I'm saying? So every business has two things. You have the owner and you have the client. Okay? If you're living in the US, you have your government and you're a citizen. Okay? Both parties need to do what they need to do to make it work. So our country has a lot of holes. All right. It's broken. There's a lot of wonderful things about this country, but in my personal opinion, what's happening right now is a bit ridiculous. If you're going after people like you're a bounty hunter that have done crimes, then okay, fine. But what's happening right now in the news with protests and, blah, 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 people getting killed now. And it's just like, hold on, back up. Let's do the business thing first. Okay. Let's analyze how our process is broken. Let's fix the process. Let's all move forward as a family and dominate. That's how you dominate the world, is through unity. All right. This is an amazing country. If you have been to New Orleans, all this food that you love so much, guess what? It's not all from just here. It's from people who have come here over the generations. Okay. New Orleans is like exempt from CNN news. Like when you watch things on the news, that does not apply to New Orleans. It really doesn't, because we have so many different kinds of people here and we all love each other, man. Like we love you until you give us a reason not to. That's New Orleans. All right. I'm going to give you a hug or a high five, whether you're a homeless person or a tourist that comes in here. That's who we are. All right. So anyway, I didn't want to get all political on people, but I felt like after watching the news this morning, I really wanted to get this out there that if you are smart enough to understand that there's a left and a right side or an up and a bottom, okay, from a business on how it's run, who's the client. Everything in the middle of that needs to work. So if people respected most things like a correctly run business, I really don't think we'd have as many problems as we do. The problem is there's a lot of people running companies, maybe it's management, whatever it is, people with power that do not have these skills. So there's always going to be problems. I get that. So I'm going to continue with introducing myself here. Okay. I just want you to learn about who I am. Okay. I 100% enjoy life as we see it. I just really, I truly believe in my heart it could be better. I know it can be better. I thought it was going to be better, you know? So anyway, yeah. So if you're working in the government and you're actually hearing my podcast, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you very much. But yeah, I would love to see some level of common sense back. You know, I think the common sense is gone. There's so much division of every angle, like on purpose, it seems like. It's very hard to have a cohesive anything when there's division at the level that I'm seeing it, you know? So me being the visual historian, well, guess what? What I see, everything is not cool. Can it be run better? Absolutely. But at the heart of everything, just know that, you know, we Americans most people that are here love the fact of how diverse we are. So, you know, back to the news having an agenda and these people that are doing the riots that are getting paid to do them, like all of that just blows me away. It just does. But they are not the voice for you. And that's what I wanted to basically tell you is I want you to be smart enough to ask the questions. I want you to try a little harder with the person that's next to you and they're not the same shade of color that you are. You know, I can't tell you how many times because of the job, I was forced to be in rooms or around people that I would normally never be with just because of our natural state of division. You stay in your groups. It's just safer that way. That's what we're told. But can I tell you, I've had so many damn wonderful experiences with people. I've learned to appreciate everything. I got friends of mine, you know, his family tree goes back to Puerto Rico. The other one goes back to Guatemala. There's some words in Spanish that mean two different things in the different areas. You know, I can stumble through Spanish. I really need to finish and learn it. I just have not had the patience, I guess, to actually do it. Back to my ADD. You know, so I hope today you're learning a little bit more about yourself. You know, maybe you're learning what you don't know or what you have not been around. And maybe you're afraid, you know, maybe it's easier to stay in your group. But you need to respect other people for being humans, okay? Until they prove you wrong. That's what we do here in New Orleans. We're going to love you until you show me why I can't. And then we're going to bury you. Because we're all family here, man. You know, that's just how it rolls. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day. I will be at PodFest next week in Florida. Obviously, if you do not have a podcast, this means nothing to you. But if you're one of the few that have a podcast, and you're going to be there, man, then send me a message. I'm not hard to find. You know, send me a message. We can meet up, do a beer. I'm very excited to go because this podcast is starting to take off. And one of the things that I'm very proud of is having the ability to speak for my city. There's a lot of wonderful people here in New Orleans. I have a lot of creative friends that do many different things who are in business. And that's who I'm going to bring on the show. I will be going to a video version of the podcast soon. I just, right now you can call in. I'm not worried about video. I'm getting mixed reviews from people. I mean, obviously video has more ways of getting out there like TikTok and YouTube. But at the same time, I'm talking to the other half of people that tell me they're listening to podcasts when they're at the gym, or they're going for a walk, or they're driving, or whatever it is. So I kind of have half and half. So while I'm able to not do video and pump these podcasts out the easiest way that I can, I'm going to do that for a little bit. But I will be doing a video soon. I just need to plan it a little bit better. My photography business is doing fantastic. 2026 looks great. I love where I am creatively. I just added a Sony to the camera bag. I know. If you followed me for the last 6 years, I've been Fuji only. Now I still have my Fuji. I have my XH2S. And I have the Sony A7R5. And for those people who don't know what the hell that means, the R in the R5 means resolution. The camera is able to photograph at 61 megapixels, and you can go to your RAW and pick a more compressed RAW or whatnot, and also take pictures that are not 61, maybe down to like 30 or 24, which is what my Fuji is. But I wanted a forward moving camera. I wanted a tool that when I'm doing commercial work or product photography or group, I do a lot of big groups for these, commercial events, and it'd be so awesome to just go ahead and turn on your largest RAW. You're getting 61 megs. If you have not seen the difference of a 61 meg file compared to a 24 meg file at 100% in Photoshop or your RAW converter, whatever, if you have not seen that side by side, you don't understand what I'm talking about then. But having that kind of quality that is available to me on a whim, on a button, how cool is that, man? We press a button, we move the dial, bam. It's awesome. It really is awesome. I have been working on the Sony colors. Everybody's been telling me for years Sony colors are terrible. And I'm like, even in RAW, I'm confused. Like, what is it? Well, the thing about the RAW file is the codecs of your RAW converter. So I learned this. Lightroom does not like Fuji. Capture One does. So my Fuji files look fantastic in Capture One. If I take the exact same session and I go to Lightroom, I'm telling you, I'm fighting harder for the same colors that Capture One gives me. So I just go to Capture One. Okay. With the Sony, Capture One does good, but I'm kind of learning in the last 24 hours that Lightroom, I think their codec is a little bit better for Sony. And the Sony 4 and now the R5 and then moving forward, they did change their color science a little bit better. And I honestly didn't think it'd be a big deal since I'm shooting RAW anyway. Okay. No, the codec makes a big difference, man. If the codec sucks, meaning if the software language that reads the RAW file, it gives you all these levers and ability to make changes. Well, if the codec isn't great, it's really hard to get the right colors, the right contrast, skin tones, your highlights, like all that has a lot to do with your RAW file and the codec within the converter that you're using. So that being said, last night I was up till almost 1:30 in the morning working on a wedding in Lightroom because I cracked the code of what to do. And I have not used Lightroom in a long time. I mean, I use it, but no. I use Capture One every single day because me with my Fuji files, that's the way it rocks. I have not used Lightroom in so long. I had to actually go look at some YouTube videos and see some tutorials. And I was kind of blown away on what you can do. I mean, it's almost like Photoshop is in there, So I'm relearning Lightroom a little bit. But when I tell you I cracked the code with my Sony files, now in 2 steps, I'm done with these files. That's incredible. I don't know what the hell I was doing wrong a week ago when I was messing around in Lightroom. I don't know. I think if you rely on a preset function, like you go to the preset first, that's wrong. I think you need to go to your regular settings and make some adjustments, and then have presets that'll take you from there. That's what I learned last night, because these Sony files, to me, man, they are crisp. They're good. Because of these 61 megs, or even when I'm shooting at the 24 megs, I'm still using that full frame sensor. So it's still, it's still capturing all the same availability of the raw file. And when I tell you last night, I was almost addicted to what I was able to do in 2 steps. And that's why I like getting things down to is a 2-step thing. When you have 2,000 images to go through, obviously, as photographers, we will tell you this, okay? When y'all are wondering why weddings take so long to see them, to, get them to your download code, it's because, one, we care, and we're going to crop things straight. We're not going to show you the crazy blinks and the dark images because the flash didn't go off. We're going to get rid of all those. So that alone takes time. And then when you decide, okay, bam, this is my batch, I'm down to 1,200. That's amazing. Okay. And when you're at the beginning where the bride is getting dressed, maybe that window light coming in the room is a certain color tone and exposure. So you can take your 50 images you shot in that area and do one thing, copy and paste to the rest of the 50. They all look great. But man, when you turn the camera to the right and there's less light and there's more tungsten from the lamp that's on, now your colors are whack. So you have to read, you have to just go figure it out, and that may even be for just 5 shots that you shot. And then you turned your camera and it's different again. And I know what you're saying, dude, just shoot it on auto white balance and you're fine. No, you're not fine. Trust me, if you're a working photographer, you know what I'm talking about. It just takes time. However, when we're done, then we export as JPEGs, which is the flattened version of these files. And from there, they are lab ready to be printed and be seen on any device. That, my friend, is what we do for a living. That is our job. So we're getting paid to shoot the job for our time and talent, okay? But part that's packaged in that is how long it takes us to develop all this stuff. It's still time. So when you're wondering why is a wedding photographer X amount of dollars, just know that the entire process is what we're basing it on, And look, all the work you do on the back end, we don't even count it. We don't see it. We really do care about your images. We want to give you something that's fantastic and fabulous, and you want to share it. And 20 years from now, you're still talking about your images. Yeah, well, that's because of this process, So that's the thing. I added Sony to the bag. So yes, on one side of my body, I have the Fuji camera. On the right side of my body, I have the Sony. So for those who say, Sony is so amazing and different compared to Fuji, well, I'm shooting both. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have a lot more to show off and tell you. And I think there's a lot of Fuji shooters out there that are like me that, may want to add to the bag or whatever it is. And, not knowing those differences, well, I'm going to be able to share with you real world differences. I'm using these cameras on jobs that I'm getting paid for. And that's another reason why the Fuji is on me, just in case I get in a pinch and, those damn Sony menus. Why is the menu system so ridiculous? It doesn't look like it should be, but I have the hardest time sometimes finding the simplest things. I don't know why. I originally came from Canon. Canon's menu system is very simple to me. Fuji's was fairly simple too. It didn't seem like Greek, language going to another version of the camera. Sony's menu system, either it's just so in depth, there's so many pages to it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's how it's worded. I don't know. But okay. I'm going to give you an example. You can turn on the feature to when you take a picture, when you press play to look at what you just took a picture of, a little green box will show you where it focused. which is neat. It's very neat until it's annoying. And then you're like, oh, let me turn that off. I could not go back in the menu and turn the damn thing off. I couldn't find it. I was like, oh God, how do I turn this on? How do I turn it off? Okay, here you go. Last week, just like on your iPhone, how you can pinch zoom on an image to blow it up, I was able to do that in the back of the Sony camera. I don't know what the hell I pressed, but right now, I cannot pinch zoom. So when I'm showing a client, I can't just pinch zoom to kind of show them what a little crop will look like. I got to go look at a YouTube video now, and then make that a freaking shortcut button, which you can do. So I'm learning, I think learning new things makes your brain grow, and it widens your creativity because you know more things. I know that sounds maybe silly, but when I tell you photographers have more fun, when we have fun taking pictures, we take better pictures. And not only that, a lot of our jobs are many hours long, So when we have gear that we enjoy using, it's more fun to go shoot. But, if you're fighting equipment the whole time and you're doing many hours of work on the back end because you're having to because things weren't shot as easily as it should have been for whatever reason. Pro photography is all about shooting it correctly in the camera, getting the best version of the file. So when you get to your computer, there's a 1 or 2 step process. You're done, delivered to client. That's what I do. So anyway, 2026 is looking fantastic. We have New Orleans has a bunch of events coming in soon. I have so many wonderful stories to share with you. But me being the visual historian, I call myself that with my clients because a lot of times I've photographed them as babies, then when they're toddlers, then they were high school seniors, and 10 years later, they're getting married. I'm your visual historian. You can look at your life through my pictures of you. How cool is that? I just think that's the coolest thing ever. But I'm also based out of New Orleans. I'm a regular citizen paying taxes, and we're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about my journey as me. I have a family. They're in school. There's insurance we're paying for driving. I'm based in New Orleans. Let's talk about New Orleans stuff. Let's talk about everything that affects me. So if it affects, me in a way to where it's a hindrance or it's a plus, I want to share that with you. Why not? So all my friends and family and clients and future clients that are based in New Orleans and you just found this podcast, just know that I want to talk about topics for us as well, so I'm looking at my clock on my Rodecaster Duo 2. It's so neat. It shows me the time. We're at 43 minutes. So I got a few more minutes. I'm going to share this real quick with you, okay? So if you live in New Orleans, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you only get your news from the news. Unless, of course, from the blessings of TikTok, you can follow some of us over here and get real world news. That's what's cool about TikTok and social media. When it's real, it's cool. Latoya is getting out of office. Yay. We have a new mayor coming in, Miss Helena Moreno. We pray that she's going to do a fantastic job. Going backwards, when I was younger, I remember when she was a reporter on Channel 4 or 6, I forget which one. And then she, realized I could do more with this city if I was more involved. And she's moved up the ladder, and lo and behold, now she's mayor. So, moving forward, when I tell you the city has been divided by color for so long, I think what Latoya actually did in her term of messed up office was show all the people living in New Orleans. And I'm talking Uber drivers I've had that are immigrants that have been living here for like 2 years, and other people that's lived here their entire life, not the same shade of color as me. We all share the same opinion. She got to go. And as a city, the city needs to be run like a business. Going back to what I was saying before, everything is a damn business, okay? And if it's not being run correctly, let's get somebody in there who can run it correctly. I don't care what color you are. Do your job. All right? Just do your job. So I have Black friends, Asian friends, Spanish friends. I'm meeting new people in Ubers that are Indian, that's been here for like 6 months and some for 6 years. And we all share the same political view of this wonderful, beautiful city called New Orleans. We just want it run correctly. We do want it more safe. We do want our cops and our fire department to be paid better. I think across the globe, teachers in general, not just because I have a wife that's a teacher, but just in general, they are some of the worst paid, most important people in your life, or was in your life, or going to be in your child's life, and they're highly underpaid. I think the business version of this country has a lot of flaws. A lot of flaws. I know I can't personally change anything, but through the power of my podcast, we can talk about it. And God bless the politician that may agree with me and actually goes to a meeting and says, hey, I have an idea. I don't care if you even take my idea and you make it your own. If it was a good enough idea, let's make it happen, So I'm not just a photographer. I'm a father. I'm a musician. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a citizen. I'm middle class. I really strongly believe that the government's trying to eliminate the middle class. I think they keep pushing us down and down and down with everything that's going on right now. And they just want poor and rich. Like, I really do believe that. Which also leaves me to leave this conversation for the future podcasts. I think we should have more than Republican and Democrat. And you're going to say, yeah, we have an independent. No, we don't. Not really. We do. It's offered. But it's really not an active role, if you know what I mean. I think we need like an Elon or somebody of that caliber to create another movement where there's more options. Being a democratic country does not mean left or right. It doesn't mean right or wrong. It just means your voice should matter. And as the group opinion of its citizens agree on something, that is what democracy is. That's what it should be, So I personally think left and right needs to go away. I think Republican and Democrat need to have one or two other parties that are making shit happen. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about running a country. We're not talking about a popularity contest, people. There's a lot more things. There's a lot more topic in between these left and right sides that we're being told or listened to or whatever. There's always more rational thought. There's some better ideas, than what they're saying. And I think if the American people had more versions of their own voice, I think that, honest to God, would bring people way more together, especially if it wasn't so obvious, red or blue. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. We're working on 48 minutes. If you're doing your jog and you're getting ready to go inside and you're hot and you're sweaty and you're going, come on, G, just close this podcast out so that I can get on with my day. Okay, well, I'm going to do that. If you're going to be at Podfest next week, look me up, say hi. Let me get my outro band music here. Oh, yeah. All right, you guys, I'm a rocker. I want you to live your dream. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. You're here. See you next time.